What's up, everybody? Welcome into Browns Film Breakdown. It's your Friday, April 11th edition. A little late on today's show because wanted to get it out early, but as you know, the Browns made a pretty big decision at the quarterback position that we're going to get into right away. Talk about Joe Flacco, his signing in Cleveland, and what it means and what it could potentially mean for the draft, and so many other pieces of the puzzle here. So we'll get to that. Want to remind you some things that have gone up on the website, some work we've done I think is well worth your time. If you missed the thorough deep dive mock draft that went up a few days ago, go check that one out. Every pick, couple trades, a lot of details around those players, well worth your time, okay? Also, yesterday, Cody Sook did a great job of putting out day 3 prospects that he was into, fit the Browns, a little bit of their needs, but a little bit of positions that need depth, and some guys who are just intriguing talents sort of being slotted into that rounds 4 through 7 range. A lot of different positions inside of that, obviously, and then some fun players. Check that out. And then we did late yesterday an Abdul Carter film room where myself and Scott, we went deep into detail on the player, his scouting profile, his production, the character stuff, and then obviously broke down the film, the elite pass rush traits, what makes him so appealing. All of it. We broke it all down. Ends up being about a half hour of a film room, and I don't think you're going to find many that do a better job covering what makes him great, some concern areas, and if he is an immediate, let me put it that way, an immediate 3-down, 4-3 edge defender for the Browns, and what that looks like if he's not, and then how he becomes that over time. So a lot of good stuff there. And ultimately we answer if we would select him second overall, and our reaction if they do go that route, which is looming. We got more information on that. Again, we'll talk about that in just a moment. Want to remind you, if you are here via the podcast audio form, whether you're finding that on Apple or Spotify, if you could rate and review us and give us some feedback, we always love and appreciate that, very much so. And then obviously as well, we love that if you're on YouTube checking out the video form of this portion of the podcast, if you could like, subscribe, give that thumbs up, that would be great for us and more Browns fans finding us through the algorithm as well. And then if you're there, come over and join us at the website where we have some fantastic stuff going on all the time for subscribers. Everything is really sort of tailored to you guys who are with us and making your Browns experience enriching it really for the passionate fan. If you're a passionate fan, you're finding this stuff on the internet, you probably want to know more, and that's what we're aiming to provide all the time. And we have a very I think quality community that is talking, discussing things all day, and then a founders tier, which is great because there's a Slack channel where we are inside the Browns Film Breakdown staff communicating, talking all day. You get the slick hat that's on top of my head for free, so you should come over and join us. We would greatly appreciate that. So listen, a lot to talk about. We're going to get to all of that and more coming right up. We got Joe Flacco back in Cleveland. We got mysterious tweets from draft prospects. Let's get going on the show right now. Okay, we have Joe Flacco back in Cleveland. This is a thing. They signed him. It's going to be 1 year, $4 million base. So cheap in that regard, but it can get up to $13 million, which is a bit spicier if he hits some incentives. I don't know the details of those incentives. We won't know until the contract details are released in the coming days. But you think it's probably playtime based, yardage based, touchdown based. If he produces, if he starts a lot of games, he's going to creep pretty close to that $13 million number. Now, this obviously has a lot of discussion points off of it. What does it mean for Kirk Cousins' situation, getting out of Atlanta, maybe coming to Cleveland? I think that dream's done. I think what it indicates is that Atlanta is pretty serious about how they're going to go about moving him. They're probably, hardballing it right now. They're probably also saying, even if you wait until after the draft, we're going to continue to play hardball. They're going to look for a quarterback desperate team, whether that's an injury, something of the like. They're committed to paying him the money they paid him when the deadline passed, and it doesn't feel like they're moving out of that world. So that, I think, is done, and I think the Browns wanted to feel like they had a fallback, a safe spot to land at quarterback, relative, right? Everything's relative. If they couldn't pull the Cousins thing off or they felt bad about the direction that was going. I personally don't think there's a massive difference between the version we saw of Kirk Cousins in Atlanta in a dome stadium, in that environment, a lot of weapons in the running game, tight end, wide receiver, and what you get from Joe Flacco. I still think there's a big enough difference to say, yeah, we'll pay Kirk this exorbitant amount of money, $15 million, $20 million, and you give up very minimal draft return to Atlanta. Or if you say, Atlanta, you eat the money and we'll give you a fourth. I still think that's worth it. I don't think the difference is that high from Cousins to Flacco, and I don't think you can confidently say that either based on what we saw him do last year. You would be putting out some conjecture about whether you think he's going to improve in Cleveland, and the evidence of that, I just don't think I trust enough to make that assumption. So I get the Flacco path. I think it's, If you want to believe they were in pretty deeply there on Russell Wilson, you can believe that. I don't know for sure. They at least brought him in. I don't know if the money was going to fit. A lot of things we don't know. They're kind of a bit of a mystery on that. But the difference and variance of the market here, I don't think Flacco's that far off. Now, when he came to Cleveland, he was 38 2 years ago. Now he's 40. So you are weighing some of that, and you're ultimately asking yourself, is this going to work in a similar way to that, again, air quotes here, magical feel that you maybe felt a few years ago when he was the one that pushed them over the finish line, right? What I think we have to do is kind of peel back the layers and look at least I think you have to look at if he's going to be the same player, or if he's going to be better. I'm not sure. I mean, I listen, at the baseline, he knows what Kevin wants to do, and he understands how to operate what they're asking him to operate. He came into the Pittsburgh game week 4 a little later. He played 5, 6, and then ultimately played 9 and 10. It was Anthony Richardson's job, but it was a weird year for Richardson where he had left the teams on the field, and then that pushback happened. He had some injury stuff come up. It was pretty weird in Indy last year. So some spot duty that came up, played pretty well in the 2 games to close the season, which ultimately were games that Indy probably wanted to lose for their draft stack. But when you look at it, compared to his Cleveland run, it was almost an identical number of dropbacks, 265 to 270. The completion percentage went up slightly, which you would expect in Shane Steichen's system that's a little more RPO short throw heavy. It improved from 62 or 63% to 65%, not much. But in Cleveland, there were bigger chunk plays. He threw for 200 more yards, and this obviously includes the playoffs too, so keep that in mind, that wild card round blunder. But the yards per attempt was 7.7 to 7.1, 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions for the Colts last year, 14 and 10 for Cleveland, 11 big-time throws to 11 turnover-worthy plays in Cleveland, 8 big-time throws to 11 turnover-worthy plays in Indy, 9.2 average distance of target, same thing in Cleveland, 9.1. There's not much difference here, guys. There's a pretty much a similar play. He took more sacks last year. The pressure to sack percentage went up from 13.6% in Cleveland to 23.1. That's noteworthy. He had a little less time to throw, so he had to get the football out a little quicker, and I'm sure that impacted some things. How Steichen, fits with that type of quarterback is a little different. I think the Browns are going to work back more toward a place where Flacco's comfortable, but this is who you're going to get. I mean, he hasn't had a really strong big-time turnover-worthy, big-time throw to turnover-worthy percentage in his career. I mean, it's been a long time. You're talking about his last tilted big-time throw to turnover-worthy throw scenario was 2012. Every other year, it's been pretty much the same number, honestly, tilting more to turnover-worthy plays. So I like it from the sense that I expect them to take Travis Hunter, pair it with Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman involved. I think there's a lot of targets there and a guy who's willing to rip and throw the football. The one thing you liked about Jameis Winston, despite the turnovers, he was very willing to push the football downfield, and he was giving his wide receivers chances. The problem and what you're hoping for, and maybe they find it, maybe they don't, I don't know, is if Flacco can cut down the turnover-worthy plays and find some sort of maybe 25 to 12 ratio on turnover-worthy plays to big-time throws. You want him finding, at least hunting, those downfield windows, those big throws, those big opportunities for playmaking wide receivers, but you also don't want him putting the football in harm's way too often. And what are we expecting right now? Probably more of that than the big time throws based on the evidence. But maybe the hope for the Browns here is that there's something in place where he can have one more good season and serve as a bridge. Kenny Pickett's obviously around. They'll be interested in Pickett. They'll give him opportunities to see if he can mitigate mistakes and play. He's a bit, he's a more reserved quarterback in terms of the nature of attacking downfield. So there's no doubt about that. But I will say, as I sit here, this doesn't disqualify the Browns. If they loved a guy at 2, it wouldn't disqualify them from taking a guy at 2. I think if they loved a guy at 33 or 67, I also think they're very much in line to still take a quarterback. Pickett, Flacco, rookie of some variety is my hunch. The place at which they take that player, I don't know. You don't know. We don't know. But I think it's still very much in play, and I don't think you should be writing it off. And really, with a $4 million baseline and $13 million incentive, I don't think this is a start for us, Joe. I think there's obviously comfort with Flacco to say, hey, I can go there, I can start. I feel like this is the perfect, sort of opportunity to get some more snaps. But I don't think that the contract indicates there's an assumption he's going to automatically start. So that's where we're at. It's an interesting signing, and it's brings back some either nostalgia of love for that season and what Flacco did, or some people on the other side of that spectrum who don't believe in him at all. But it is a big signing, and it helps solidify some of the nature of the room, and it gives them a chance to take the quarterback that I think falls to them instead of maybe reaching to an extent, feeling this sort of necessity to go up and find somebody. But Flacco and Pickett are, in the ballpark of quarterback styles, pocket-based guys who try to live from that spot. We'll see. Maybe they go Milroe, which is a different type of player. Maybe they end up going Sanders, who fits more of what those guys do if they move up, or maybe Jackson Dart falls to them. It is going to be interesting to see, but I do think quarterback's still very much on the radar, but you do get Joe Flacco back as a baseline. We'll see what comes of it, but Flacco's back. All right, next piece of information we get is that the Browns are going to spend some time talking to a safety finally, which we have learned that safety is Rayshon Jenkins, who has been around the league for a while. He's just turned 31. He's out of Miami, down there in Florida, obviously. He's a 2017 fourth-round pick to the Chargers, has been around the league for a minute, and played a lot of snaps. He started out with the Chargers. He didn't really get a bunch of snaps until his third and fourth seasons, and they started more. Then he went to Jacksonville, where he was a starter in 22 and 23, played up over 1,000 snaps, but he was playing above 800 to 900 between 19 and 21. He's got a lot of experience. He signed in Seattle last year, was a starter for them for a while. Then he had this hand-wrist injury that you see him wearing the glove there on the screen in front of you. But again, is this an answer? Is this a player who's going to boost through him? I don't know. And they haven't signed him yet. We'll see if they do, but it's at least interesting they're bringing in a safety to kind of maybe solidify less of that. Oh, they don't have anybody in that room who's played extensive snaps in the NFL, or we at least feel comfortable with outside of Delpit. And again, Ronnie Hickman has played, but do you totally feel like that's the best pathway moving forward as the league starts to get more and more tape and more ability to manipulate the weaknesses of their game? That's something I would have liked them to do. So getting somebody in, I don't know if they sign Jenkins. It's likely most of these visits at this time of year result in a signing if there's mutual interest and the health checks out. I don't have any reason to think the health won't check out. So there is a desire to get the safety position in a little better place before the draft. So again, they're not forcing anybody. And ultimately, you're looking at a guy with extensive upward of 5-6 years of starting experience. We can shift over and look at his PFF data real quick. You can see that he has played, like I said, last year he played a decent number of snaps, but missed that large chunk in the middle of the year. And then, at least you can see over the last 3 years, Jacksonville, 836 and 21, up over 1,200, then up over 1,100. And if you look at his snap count stuff, he's understands some of the variety of the position. He can play true free safety. He can get down in the slot. He can play in the box. He's a hybrid type. He's going to move around. He's played split. He's played free. He can do a little bit of everything. So I think it's the right move. Do I think it's an exceptional player? No, I think the missed tackle percentages have been way too high in his career, especially in 22 and 23. And even 24, he's still missing too many tackles. But he is a guy down in the box, willing to mix it up, come up in the run game. And the coverage stuff has been okay, not exceptional. But I think, Juan Thornhill-like player that can kind of be in the back half and maybe play enough mistake-free football to solidify the role. And maybe even with Jim Schwartz and playing a little bit more of that center field can be a bit more of a rangy, instinctual type. But we'll watch the tape. If they do sign him, we'll watch the tape. I'll break him down for you and talk a little bit more about who he is. But we do at least have some movement in the safety room. And then I got to say, the last big piece of news is that Travis Hunter feels more like a Cleveland Brown today than we've ever seen. And we might ask why. Well, this is silly, arbitrary maybe to you, but to me it's pretty significant. The Giants have now met with Abdul Carter 5 times. Pre-combine, at the combine, after the combine, just did another dinner with the team. He seems to be locked in on the Giants, and the Giants feel like they are locked in on him. And you might say, well, that's silly, Jake. They have Brian Burns and they have Kayvon Thibodeau, but this is the scenario when you feel like the Browns are taking the player that maybe fits a little more of what you want in front of you in Travis Hunter, then you're going to look at the next guy. And I think that the Giants have accepted that's who's going to be there, and that's the blue chip player remaining. They feel like they're going in that direction, so much to the point that Abdul Carter tweeted out a photo without comment of, a photo specifically of Lawrence Taylor in a Giants uniform. Take from that what you will. You can start to see the odds have continued to shift. It feels like the Giants are locked in on Carter. Carter is starting to become accepting that is the place he is going to land. Could a curveball still happen? The Browns take him, sure, but I've been saying this for months. Every indication about the player Travis Hunter is, that the Browns need, and the level of player that he is, all align. It's not often that these things all align. Now, would you like a quarterback if Cam Moore was there? Sure, that's the biggest align of all alignments. But I'm talking about the next best thing, aligning for what they need, the types of players, the blue chip type, the unicorn nature of this guy. Everything is coming together. That's exciting. So I like it. It feels more imminent than ever. Some of the people who have been pushing Carter pretty sternly on social and in their mock drafts and things like that have even started to shift off of it too, because you should. And I think it was just a little bit of denial going on there for a while. You can come back and laugh at me. It's certainly possible they end up taking Carter and you can come back and laugh at me. And I still remind you guys, I would not be mad if they took Carter. I think he's going to be a good player. The film room we just put up indicates such, right? But it's not a clean enough prospect for me to pass up on a guy like Hunter. It needed to be a slam dunk. It needed to be a generational player. And I don't think Carter is necessarily a generational player. I think he's going to be a very good NFL edge player, but I don't see the absolute slam dunk that you need it to be to make that selection. Especially, again, given that I think Hunter's the most talented player, the number one player on the board, and the number one player at two positions I think the Browns need to be a little more concerned about than their edge rusher. But again, it's not about necessarily need, even though you keep an eye on it, a little side eye on need. I do think you're looking more at the broad picture of the team. So there we go. Flacco's back. That's exciting. Safety in the room. Exciting to some. It's relative, right? At least some quarterback answers are in place. And then you get a safety being brought into Berea that could be a part of helping to solidify the baseline of that room. And then just keeping you guys up to date. Travis Hunter feels more like a Cleveland Brown on April 11th than he has at any point, even though momentum has been moving in that direction for a while. Okay, so we have a interview on More Sports for You Cleveland that I wanted to share with you guys that I went on. So stick around. If you are with us after the break, you're a supporter, you can check out that. We go into a lot of great discussion topics around the nature of the team right now, the quarterback, and then obviously some of the draft stuff that I recently put out. So if you want to listen to that, stick around, hang around. That'll be after the break. If you're leaving us for the day, I still encourage you to come over and support us at the website, Unlock the Free Podcast every single day. You can even get it on Spotify in its own specific channel, making it easy and making it feel seamless to maybe what you're currently doing. So again, thank you for being here no matter how you found us. Appreciate you much. Join us at brownsfilmbreakdown.com. Link in the description of this podcast for wherever you are listening to it. Have a great day, guys, and we'll catch you either tomorrow or after this quick break.